Hey everyone, Tony here. Today for you, I have got a magnificent 1948 home run magazine from Japan featuring Joe DiMaggio on the cover. I found this digging around a musty bin of similar magazines at a new used bookstore, if you will. It's a new store selling used books that opened up recently that I was really excited to check out. I was thumbing through the bin and I said, that's Joe DiMaggio. So I got this for $5 about. Pretty awesome. So yeah, like I said, this is actually from 1948. So Joe DiMaggio would make several visits to Japan in the early 50s. Of course, this predates any of those visits and has nothing to do with them. This magazine actually just has a sort of general profile of DiMaggio. It talks a little bit about the 1947 season, which you might know was the year of the biggest heist in MVP history. And that actually might not be hyperbole. These days it seems like every year there's some sort of discourse around whether or not this player got robbed of MVP. Oh, if he doesn't get it, he's got robbed, right? It seems like every year now it's like we say that. But let me tell you, the 1947 MVP went to Joey D over Ted Williams. Now, Williams absolutely lapped DiMaggio in every meaningful offensive category that year. He hit 32 dingers to DiMaggio's 20. He had an OPS that was roughly 200 points higher. Alas, Joltin Joe took the hardware home in what is probably one of the most transparent examples of Yankee bias you could possibly imagine, given that the Yankees were perennial champions around that time. And they certainly weren't giving the nod to Joe as the elder statesman, at least not in my view, given that DiMaggio and Williams were more or less contemporaries. DiMaggio started his career a couple years before Williams. So anyway, this is not meant to dump on DiMaggio, right? Of course I don't want to do that. I love Joe DiMaggio. And this article just, it brings up the fact that he beat Ted Williams by a hair. That is 1 vote point, basically. I think it was like 202 to Williams 201 or something like that. So, but beyond that, it's pretty much just a fairly standard profile of Joe DiMaggio. Also in this magazine, I was pleasantly surprised to find, although DiMaggio is the cover boy, there's also a retrospective on the, oh man, I forget exactly what year, but the famous barnstorming tour with Connie Mack as the manager. As you can see here, in this picture, you got a couple of nobodies. Some dude, Babe Ruth, Jimmy Fox, Lou Gehrig, and Connie Mack. So, nobodies. So anyway, DiMaggio, like I said before, made several trips. So this magazine is from 1948. And DiMaggio made several trips to Japan in the early 50s. He went, I believe, in 1950 along with Lefty O'Doul, who, of course, was DiMaggio's manager with the San Francisco Seals in the minor leagues. And O'Doul, for his part, is often credited with very much elevating the status of the game in Japan and dedicating a lot of his time to the growth of the game in Japan. Although he is sometimes called like the father of Japanese baseball, I think that's a little bit maybe giving him a little bit too much credit. Of course, baseball was being played regularly in Japan as early as the late 19th century. So, but actually, another visit that DiMaggio made to Japan was actually for his own honeymoon. If you didn't know, DiMaggio and Marilyn Monroe basically kicked off their troubled and brief relationship, their brief, ill-fated marriage with a honeymoon in Japan that was meant to tie in with another DiMaggio sort of baseball-related publicity appearance. And it's known, as was the case for much of her life, it was a somewhat forlorn and sort of jading experience for Marilyn Monroe. She got sick, and she had noted that, basically the crowds were so insane, and in fact, most of the press at that point actually was more interested in her than they were in DiMaggio. But they both did some work with soldiers, both in Japan and also in Korea, actually, because, of course, at that point in 1953, the Korean War was still going on. But, so yeah, DiMaggio and Joe and Marilyn had their something like a honeymoon, although if you read about it, certainly less than sort of storybook ideal, but that was one of the other trips that DiMaggio made to Japan. So this is a 1948 Home Run magazine with Joe DiMaggio on the cover from 1948. Super excited to have this. As always, guys, that's it for me. Thanks for watching. Peace.